Welcome to my Stamina NightBlade PvE build. Just as a heads up, on Tamriel Foundry there is a really nice guide from Jekyll about the Stamina NightBlade. He has probably more insight into the class than me, so I will put the link from his build guide in the description. So make sure to check it out if you want some additional informations. Okay, let's start. Make sure to check out the description. All the timestamps, what I will explain, are there, so you can skip to the things you really want to hear. I will first talk about the race, then the gear, CP, skills, Werewolf shortly, and trial setups. So I have a wet dungeon setup and a trial setup. I do not use the same gear. And also make sure, don't just copy paste the build. Also make sure to understand what I am trying to do, okay? It is really important that you understand the mechanics of the build. Because if you do understand the mechanics, you also can adjust a few things to your needs. Maybe it works better for you, maybe some of the skills work better than mine for you, so you really need to have a feeling for that. Okay, let's start with the race. As you see, I'm a Khajiit, so there's a few options that you can consider. So pure PvE wise, the next patch, finally this passive is working Carnage. In Imperial City and Orsini or Rovgar it doesn't work the 8%, but now with Thief Guild it finally works. So those 8% weapon crit are more important than other passives that give like 10% stamina, 4% melee damage, etc. So Khajiit is the race you want for PvE and maybe also for PvP, because you also get 10% increased stamina and you get increased damage while in stealth, which is really nice. So as long as you're sneaking or you're like in cloak or bat swarm, you gain 10% more overall damage, which is really good. More for PvP, but anyway, PvE, really Khajiit is the way to go. And then there is other choices like Orc, Red Guard, Wood Elf, those are all, and Imperial, those are all really nice choices. But really, if you have the choice, then go Khajiit. So let's talk a little bit about the gear. In all my videos I'm trying to explain, like, there is a Night Mother's gear, the 5-piece bonus. It's not only 2.6, it's more like 4k, like physical resistance reduction. And there is Hunting's Rage. So it really does not matter if you have 5 pieces Hunting's Rage or 5 pieces Night Mothers. The difference is so small. So if you have already crafted Hunting's Rage, 5 pieces and maybe 4 Night Mother's Gaze, then keep it that way. It's still really good. However, Night Mother's Gaze, as long as mobs have resistance, and most mobs have resistance, is a tiny bit better. So the damage difference on a wrecking blow, for example, is like 60 damage points for Night Mother's Gaze. But it's really small. So if you have Hunting's Rage already, like me, I only have Hunting's Rage 5 pieces on the live server. I will not bother crafting Night Mother's Gaze. Then I will also put the link into the description where I compare Night Mother's Gaze versus Hunting's Rage. And like, does it work for the whole group, etc., and all those small things, if you are interested to know like the testing, etc. So again, 5 huntings, you get 2 crit, the stamina, and 300 weapon damage. This is really nice. Then I use 4 pieces Night Mother's Gaze with 2 daggers. So both precise, so this is a crit build like my other builds, and you see the enchantment on the daggers. There is increases your weapon damage by 160 and reduces target's armor. You also can put the poison damage glyph here, because some of the CP changes are really nice, and I will show you that later. Then I use the Maelstrom bow. This is a really powerful bow. If you have the chances to get the bow, then really go for it. It's really important. If you do not have it, you can either use a normal Night Mother's Case bow, or if you also have it, Vet 14 Master's bow from the Dragonstar Arena. Because the Master's bow, every time you do a poisoning injection, you gain like 340 weapon damage for 10 seconds. Which is really nice too, and it works on bar swap. It even works on the dual wield bar. So you can throw a poison injection with the bow, then you get 350 or something more damage here, which is really nice. Ring of Agility. So I put weapon damage enchantments on all because they're really powerful. It's 174 weapon damage, which is a lot, times 3. So now I know the rings are really expensive, the robust ones. So if you do not have robust rings, go for healthy rings. For example, I have a healthy necklace at the moment. Because my health is at like 18k, which is nice. But if you can't afford robust rings, just go with healthy ones. The difference is really small. Then about the setup. At the moment, like with my setup, as soon as I enter combat, I can achieve 100% crit. So make sure to have full divines on all the things here, because it buffs your Thief Mundus or the Shadow Mundus, for example, by quite a lot. And at the moment I'm wearing 511. If you do not want to run 511 or you don't have the undaunted bonus, you also can do 7 medium. It's just I'm already at the 100% crit, so I don't really need more crit. That's the thing. That's why for me more resources like health and stamina are more important, because it's 6% more resources. If you're Imperial, for example, you don't really have to worry about health, so just go 7 medium to get more like crit damage, not crit damage, more weapon crit. Because I'm a Khajiit, I have 8% more weapon crit than others. Okay. Let me check, did I forget something? Like, now you might ask, why do I not use Maelstrom daggers? So now, the thing is, Maelstrom daggers are only really strong in long fights. And this here is my wet dungeon setup. So, for trials, I will wear Maelstrom daggers and Twiceborn Star, but that later in the video. So I don't, for people that do not do trials, I don't want to bother those guys, so just check out this setup for wet dungeons and then you're good to go. I also have a setup for Maelstrom for for all stamina classes. I will also put the link into the description, because my setup is a little bit different. So just check out the description and you will find the link. Okay, did I forget something? If you have a mace here, like a mace precise or a mace sharpened, then keep it. The damage difference is not big. I just prefer crit. That's the thing. I just prefer crit. Just to show you my stats quickly when I buff up, like I'm close to 100%, and as soon as I basically attack, I'm at 108, like 100% and 100.8 and almost 4k weapon damage, kinda. So now next thing, you see I'm having the Thief for a Mundus. If you think like, oh, 100% is too much, I don't really want that, then use the Shadow. Both Thief and Shadow are really great. But for short fights, and wet dungeons are usually shorter fights, I find the Thief more useful. And for trials, I will show you later, because there we don't really have to make the choice because we are having Twiceborn Star on us. So now let's go to the champion system. I have like 80 points into Warlord. Just make sure to have 30 points minimum here, because you want to get the Synergizer. So every time you activate the synergy, you get 2 ultimate. So put 30 points in here and then start filling up Warlord. If you still have a few left, put some in Tumbling, because it reduces the cost of Dodge Roll and Break Free. Then the damage one. So it is hard to say which is the most optimal setup, but this is just how I like it at the moment. So maybe if you put a little bit more points into Mighty, you will have a better effect. It's really just the setup I'm having at the moment. So like 70 points into Mighty, which give me 20% physical, poison and disease damage increased. That's why I said before, if you don't want a reduced armor glyph on your dagger, you can also use a poison glyph, because now it gets buffed by 20%, which is nice. 1 point in piercing because it's better than 0. Nah, I just put 1 in here because no reasons. Then 67 here, so we get 19% increased critical damage. And basically, because we have 100% crit, we always get critical hits, and it actually works now, because of the Khajiit passive not broken anymore. So you get basically 19% crit damage per year, and also, you know, NightBlade, I can show it to you now. Just have to find it. So Hemorrhage increased damage dealt by critical strikes by 10%. So basically 10% from there and 19% from there is like a 29% weapon crit damage, like crit damage increase. And then we also have the Beer Trap, which increases it by another 12%, but to that later. Then I put like 29 points into Thaumaturge, but really, if you do not have 500 CP, prioritize Mighty and Precise Strikes. Because Nightblades, we have a few dots, but we have more instant damage than dots, at least from the damage, like DPS calculations. You really want to prioritize Mighty and Precise Strikes. So Thaumaturge was changed with Thief skill, so it increases the damage of dots. For us, that would be like Rending Slashes, for example, Scorched Earth, Caltrops, Poison Injection, and also the Meteor Shooting Star or the Ice Comet dot. Then, where were we? Here I have nothing, here I have nothing. So now here, it's really up to you. So if you have a dungeon with a lot of fire damage, most dungeons are with fire damage, so I just put 50 points here. You also can put 70 points in here. Then Hardy is another big change with Thief skill, so now it reduces poison, disease and physical damage. This is especially important for PvP. Then we have Quick Recovery. It increases healing received by like... you can put 20 points, 40 points, it's up to you. I just like the small increased healing. Okay. It's basically the most important, but like... Where is it? Here. So everybody should have like 200 CP anyway once he reaches Wet 16 with the new catch-up mechanic. So you will always have 30 points in here, so you automatically get 12% increased weapon critical rating. So we don't really have to bother with that. So now let's get to the skills for Wet Dungeons. So NightBlade has a few really awesome skills and passives compared to other classes. So again, for example, Hemorrhage. So all your critical strikes deal 10% increased damage, which is a lot, 10%. It actually is 10% now. Then you also see a successful crit hit gives nearby allies minor savagery, increases weapon critical strike rating by 657 for 20 seconds. So when I use, you see I'm not at 100. But what this passive does, as soon as I engage into a fight and I get the crit hit, which of course I will, I get the 100.8, so it's 3%. Those numbers are really confusing, but 657, like, critical strike rating is basically 3% increased weapon crit. And this goes to the whole party. If there's the more stamina builds that benefit from it. Then we have pressure points. Increases critical strike and spell critical rating for each assassination ability slotted. So relentless focus, let me take him out. Now I see 438 and I'm at like 85.8. Now I will put the skill back and it lifts me up. 2%. It's not a lot, but it's something. That's why, so basically we have Killer's Blade, we have Relentless Focus here. We also could slot Soul Harvest here to get even more. But I just want to show you those things to start. Then we have Surprise Attack. You see, like, this skill is really powerful. It basically applies a minor fracture to all mobs. Usually, yes, the tank debuffs the mobs anyway, but if you're a solo player, maybe it's nice to know. So you reduce the enemy's armor by 5.3k. Also, if you attack out of sneak, it stuns the enemy for 4.6 seconds. Then we have really great passives, more 15% more stamina recovery. And also basically once you activate Surprise Attack, you also gain Major Ward and Major Resolve, increasing spell and armor resistance. So basically if you activate this skill, it's so much shit you get, it's retarded, okay? It's fucking OP, but that's how it is. Anyway. So each shadow ability slotted increases your max health by 3%. And we have one here, so we get 3% extra health. That is not really important. Then sometimes you have to slot like Shadow Image or Dark Shades because they give a 15% damage reduction to the enemies. So maybe if you go in a wet dungeon, there is a boss that hits really hard. You want to put it here. Just to have it, and then the boss will do a lot less damage. Let me re-put this here. Good. Then let's see, another really great thing, like they buffed this one. It used to give 10 points, but now it gives 20 points. So every time you drink a potion you get 20 ultimate points. This is insane. This is not really important. This is awesome. Yeah, activating a Siphon ability grants 2 ultimates. Basically when you activate this here, for example, you gain ultimate. But then, yeah, to this later. So let's see. Usually the setup I use. Let's go through all the skills. Killer's Blade. Yes, it is magic damage, but it's still really strong. And it scales of weapon damage and stamina. I think maybe with Dark Brotherhood they will change the damage type to poison or maybe physical, but we will see. So basically there is 2 executions, like two-hander has a executioner, but the executioner does always more and more damage from 50 to 0%. But so basically if an enemy has 1% health, it will do the highest damage possible. But Killer's Blade works differently. So basically as soon as the enemy reaches 25%, you do as much damage with Killer's Blade as if he was at 1%, so you get the max damage at the start. That's why it is really strong. Then we have Steel Tornado, it's our AoE skill. It got a small nerf, it used to give 12.5 meter radius, but now it's only 9 meters, but whatever. You see, like the less health your enemy has, the more damage you will do. Then another passive from the dual wield Slaughter increases damage with dual wield abilities by 20% against enemies with under 25% health. So basically there is 2 executes in this skill. Then we have Surprise Attack. This is our main single target damage skill. You can light attack with it really nice. So you can spam it really fast, like Surprise Attack, Light Attack, Surprise Attack, Light Attack. It's really nice. And it deals really good damage. It's physical damage, so it scales with Mighty. Then we have Rending Slashes. I really only use this one if I know it will, like the boss will not die before it runs out. Otherwise dots are not really effective. But it is a strong skill and you can really reapply it fast, so it is nice. And it also benefits from the Slaughter passive here, so it will do more damage on mobs with low health. I do not use it in AoE situations though. Then now Relentless Focus. If you are in a group, maybe your healer uses combat prayers, you don't really need it. But you see I have 838 stamina recovery, and when I activate this it's 895. So I get 10% more stamina recovery and I get 8% more damage as soon as I activate this skill. So if your healer doesn't use combat prayer, then make sure to use this. Okay, Kashit is hungry. Now, there is a spectral bow, but I don't really use it. You can if you want, but it's up to you. Then Flawless Dawnbreaker is mainly here because it increases damage by 8%. Then again, we also could slot Soul Harvest. Yes, we lose 8%, but you see on the bottom, while slotted, anytime you kill an enemy, you gain 10 ultimate. So if there is a lot of mobs, for example in trash fights, you maybe want to have this because you gain ultimate crazy fast. Each time a mob dies 10 ultimate, then if you drink a potion 20 ultimate. If you have Shooting Star, I can morph it, okay, otherwise I would have Shooting Star. So basically every hit with a Shooting Star on a mob will also grant you additional ultimate. You can't read it because it's not morphed yet, and I can't morph it sadly. That's like you can get ultimate really fast. Basically, if you drop a meteor, even on boss fights it could be viable. You really maybe have to test it out. You can drop meteor, and before the meteor hits, the Shooting Star hits, you swap back to the first bar. And you get the extra ulti if mobs die. That's the thing. From the Shooting Star and from the Soul Harvest. And then shortly after you engage the fight, you pop a potion, you get another 20 ultimate. So it's the ultimate gain on NightBlades is really fucked up. Just saying. Scorched Earth. So I also did some tests with Scorched Earth versus Arrow Barrage, and Scorched Earth, if you have the Maelstrom bow, is better. It's fire damage, but if an enemy has, not the enemy, sorry, if you're in a group and you have a Magicka with you and he uses Engulfing Flames, you also benefit from 10% increased fire damage, so it works on this one. And then we have Thaumaturge, as you know, 10% more dot damage, so it's really nice. The radius is only 5 meters, but Arrow Barrage is barely any bigger, so really Scorched Earth is really nice. And we only have to reapply it every 15 seconds, because you see the second mechanic of skill, after arrows stop falling, fire remains burning enemies in the target area for 440 flame damage. And these things also get buffed by the Maelstrom bow. That's why it makes it really powerful. And you see, increases the damage of volley by 161 per tick. And then every 0.5 seconds it gets increased by 56. So it's really cool shit. Then Razor Call drops if you have those. You cannot stack them, so really only one party member can use those. Be careful if you throw them on a pack of mobs and the tank hasn't aggroed them yet, then make sure that you be careful because all the mobs will attack you. Oh, that dude. Anyway, now poison injection. So I only use this skill from 50% and lower because at the start it doesn't really deal great damage. But you see, it's poison, so it benefits from the mighty change. See, increases your physical poison and disease damage. And then it really does awesome damage at like 25 and lower. It's really crazy. Then trap beast. Here, like I can morph it, so you can either use lightweight beast trap, which you could throw like 28 meters away, which is really nice. So you could throw the bear trap, the lightweight bear trap, before you engage a fight, and it takes 1.5 seconds to arm it. So basically when you engage the fight you get 12% increased critical damage. Some people prefer rearming trap because it lasts longer for boss fights. Rearming trap is like the trap beast. You can place it like this, and then the rearming trap can go off twice. That's the thing. So the minor force buff holds for like 12 to 14 seconds, something like that. Then siphoning attacks. You don't really need this one, but you can use it if you have sustain issues. So for example in Maelstrom Arena or also in wet dungeons, just make sure to keep it up. It's really nice. Like, it gives, as you see, like the second part of the first part isn't really important, but the second one, all other direct damage attacks have a 10% chance to restore 2k magic and stamina. It has an internal cooldown, but really if you spam tornadoes, scorched earth, or I don't know what it procs, it's just basically as long as I have that up I really do not have stamina issues at all. That's the story behind this. I don't know if it gets procced by dots, but maybe in Jackal's guide it's better explained. But really, if you have sustain issues, make sure to keep this buff up and you're good to go. Then ultimate, I said before, really make sure to use Shooting Star. I can't have him yet because I can't morph my meteor. This Kashyyyk was poorly leveled, sadly, but whatever. So now, single target wise, I always make sure that I like keep Scorched Earth up, the Cult drops, Beard Trap, and if you don't have Combat Prayer, make sure to have Relentless Focus up. And then all we do is spam Surprise Attack and Light Attack and keep the dot up. Once the mob reaches 25%, you really want to make sure to put Poison Injection on the boss at like 26% and then spam Killer's Blade. If it's a long execute phase, make sure to keep it up. It's really strong. So really, drop this, Beard Trap, Poison Injection, and then the Shooting Star. Then you swap back and then here you go. Dots, Surprise Attack. I don't want to give you just a rotation because it's really situational. Always combats. For AoE, always make sure you have Scorched Earth up, Cult drops, Beard Trap as well. And then again, if there is mobs, shoot the Shooting Star into those mobs and then swap to the dual bar and spam Tornado. So basically if mobs already die from the Shooting Star And if you have Soul Harvest slotted here, you get so much ultimate, it's crazy. You can use your ultimate a lot. Then, again, Scorched Earth is really nice, both single target and AoE fights. So in single target it's like 4 to 5k DPS alone, only that skill. It's really crazy. And AoE wise it does so much, it's like 10k plus DPS, depends how much mobs are there of course, but it's really crazy damage. Okay, that was it for the skill. You also, you know, yes, dual wield bow is the most optimal because we don't rely on wrecking blow or rapid strikes. But if you want, you can use a two-hander. It's really up to you. If you prefer a two-hander, it doesn't really. You will do a little bit less DPS, but it's not a big difference for wet dungeons. Also, if you don't, I'm always using those potions here, like the crit potions, because they give me stamina, they give me a weapon crit, and they give me weapon damage. If you don't want to waste potions, then use Flying Blade instead of Rending Slashes, because once you shoot the Flying Blade, you gain Major Brutality for 10 seconds. So just make sure to reactivate this skill every 10 seconds to get the Major Brutality buff. Then again, those potions, they're really not expensive. They're like 4k or something. But yeah. If you don't want a bow here, you can use a two-hander and dual wield on the first bar. It's really up to you. There's a lot of great combinations and I don't want to give you only one. That's what you need to understand. You need to understand how NightBlades work or how stamina builds in general work to make like good builds and put out awesome damage. Let's see, did I forget something? I think that was it. I'm not using rapid strikes here because surprise attack is a really awesome skill. We will use this skill later when we get to the trial setup. Then about Werewolf. For short fights you will get the most DPS from Werewolf single target wise. That's how it currently is. I don't have it leveled again because I was bad at leveling back in the old days, I guess. But really, make sure if you level a NightBlade or if you level any stamina setup, make sure to have Werewolf ready to go when you reach max level, because it's really strong. Basically you only need Piercing Hole, morphed later into Hole of Agony or Despair, together with Hircin's Bounty, because you can morph this one into Hircin's Rage, gives you 10% increased weapon damage. Then we also have Savage Strength. This on level 2, it gives you 18% increased weapon damage, which is really nice. And all we do is light attack with like Hole of Despair, and you get a lot of bleeding ticks because Werewolf bleed. The Berserker morph gives you 40% increased bleeding damage. So the bleeding ticks are really insane, and I will try to show you some Werewolf things. Maybe I will make a separate build or just a show off how Werewolf functions later on once the Thieves Guild DLC goes live, to show you how powerful it can be. Really, most people underestimate the power of Werewolf. If I ever upload a Werewolf video, I will put it in the description of the build here as well, just to make sure. And also another thing, you gain 15% stamina recovery if you have it slotted, this one. So now we're going to the trial setup. So trial setup. So this, we don't use Hauntings or Night Mothers anymore. Now we use Twiceborn Star, and also like I use a different setup for Hel Ra AA and a different setup for Sanctum and Mauve Lorkai, because Hel Ra AA is mainly short fights, so we will not need the Maelstrom daggers. So let me first talk about the setup for Helra and AA. 5 pieces Twiceborn Star with Thief and Shadow, so we don't need to bug out like which one is better, and like we always had the most success with the Twiceborn Star anyway. But those are my stats. Not 100% but really high. You know, if I engage into a combat it gets higher as well. You even, if there's super short fights and you think I will barely use rending slashes anyway, maybe once or twice, you can swap it out and you will gain more crit. It's not much, but a little bit is a little bit. So 96.5. Where is it? 94 point. So it's 2% crit. You really must make this choice alone. For example, for Storm Atro, you will not in AA you will not use rending slashes, so you can swap it out. That's the thing. That's what you need to understand. Then now I use 7 pieces medium armor, simply because we want to get as much crit as possible, and even though now I have full robust, I still have decent health because of the Twiceborn Star, which gives me like 1k health bonus, as you can see, which is really nice, so we don't really need a healthy glaive here. If you don't want to craft Twiceborn Star for trials, you can go with Hauntings or Night Mothers. You don't need it. It's only if you want to max min stuff, really. Then again, 4 pieces Night Mother's case with that 2 daggers precise and the Maelstrom bow. I will not go too much into the skills because you already know AoE wise we have so many dots that go along. If you think Soul Harvest is more DPS even in boss fights, just keep this slotted. Yes, you lose weapon damage, that's true, but it doesn't matter. I mean, people always look at the weapon damage like it's some god mode shit, but it's not the most important thing. Because you can see here, like, it increases your damage by 20% for 6 seconds. So first ulti, shooting star in his face. Before it hits the ground, you swap back. Well, it doesn't really matter on boss fights, but anyway. Soul Harvest is almost soon ready because you do a light attack and then you activate the potion. You gain 20 ultimate points because of Catalyst. So you really can keep this buff up almost all the time. Not all the time, but you will see once you test it out. I could have a little bit better weapon damage because the weapon damage glyph here is not, I think it's a purple one, because here we have 174 and here only 160, but it doesn't matter. So now, again, this is for Helra and AA, because short fights, we benefit more from 4 Night Mother's case. If you think it's more DPS, then use Molakina here. It's really, I don't want to give you the choices, but I just prefer crit. That's the thing. That's the thing. Now I would have so a 9% crit and 3.7k weapon damage. And you know, if people have spell power, cure, powerful assault, like the healers and maybe the tank, you will gain a lot of additional weapon damage also, so yeah. Now, let's move on to the Sanctum and Maw of Lorca setup. Okay, now we have, I just made some small adjustments because now we will use the Maelstrom daggers for Sanctum and Maw of Lorca only. So Those Maelstrom Axis daggers, I have a video where everything is really good explained. I will put it also in the description so you can check it out how they work. So it's usually only a 50% trigger rate for the achievement, but if you have two, you get the 100%. That's how it works. Then you really want to make sure to have a Maelstrom dagger precise and the axe precise, so you don't lose too much crit. But if you have them in sharpened, it's also good enough. Precise and sharpened, they are both really good. Here I have like the crit. If you think, is he crazy? Like crit, better equip Molokina, then do it. And if you want, you can put something else here. Let me see if I have something with stamina. Yeah, this one. You can do it like this. If you think you're still not good enough with 18k health, you can put Molokina, which gives weapon damage, and then a random monster set, which gives a health bonus. So you got pretty like decent health for, especially for the new trial. Just saying that this is a possibility. Now let's see when I use potion. We still have 80% crit. That's the thing. And we have Thief and Shadow. So we have 34k stamina, 19k health. It's a really, really good setup. If you want, you can wear 2 Kina. It's just, it doesn't proc between skills anymore. So maybe before you engage the fight, you shoot 2 arrows into the trash mobs and then you swap back and you get the Molokina proc going. If you want to do that, so you gain 500 weapon damage, which is a lot. It's also a possibility. Because in the end, if you have 2 less health and if you're dead, you're not useful to your group at all. So maybe just make sure to have a little bit more health, especially for the new trial, than not enough. Now, we are having an axe here because, as you know, they changed it a little bit. So now each axe gives your melee attacks 8% chance to bleed enemies for 11k physical damage over 6 seconds. The highest bleed I have seen is like 18k, huge. So it's really crazy shit. If it gets buffed by aggressive warhorn and all that stuff. Now we also use Twiceborn Star, you know, like we get Thief and Shadow. But now people, why not use Hunting Rage or Night Mother's Gate? You can use it. It's just because we have always like 3 to 4 aggressive warhorns. This is not morphed, I can't morph it, but the aggressive warhorn morph gives 30% increased critical damage for 10 seconds to all your group members. That's a lot. And you know, like maybe the healer uses the aggressive warhorn, so it's 30% there. It's another 10 from here, so we're at 40 already. Then we have CP, let's say 20, so we are at 60 already. You drop your trap, we are at like 70. And then we have Shadow, which is another like 15 to 18. So it's like 85% increased critical damage. That's huge. It's so much. That's what people underestimate. That's why critical weapon crit is really important, at least for me. Because in trials, the healers and the tank really have to use aggressive warhorn. You also, in addition to the crit, you also get 10, maybe it's 20 morphed, 10 or 20% increased resources, so you gain more health, more stamina, more magicka and all that stuff. It really matters. This skill is really good on, like, for supports. Don't use a standard as tank. You don't do enough damage. Use aggressive warhorn. It boosts the whole group, the whole 12 people. Now, as you see, I made small adjustments. it's AoE wise. Again, if you think you do more damage with Soul Harvest, then keep Soul Harvest here and not Dawnbreaker. Now, the Maelstrom daggers or axes, you need to use Rapid Strikes and then Rending Slashes, and then you can go back to like keep your other, like this dot and this up. Spam Light Attack and Surprise Attack. So, as long as you reapply Rending Slashes before it runs out, you keep those 3.1k weapon damage on you. You don't need to use Rapid Strikes every 10 seconds as long as you reapply Rending Slashes before it runs out. I also tested that, and you can see it in the other video about the Maelstrom daggers. Then at 50%, you know, we use Poison Injection. Make sure to use Rapid Strikes and then Poison Injection, because it also gets empowered by the Maelstrom daggers or axes. Those are the only two skills, Poison Injection and Rending Slashes. No more. And apart from that, focus on keeping the dots up, those here, maybe the trap. So I always swap to the second bar every 15 seconds, then I just buff myself up. Cult drops every second time, then you have 30. And apart from that, focus on surprise attack, light attack spam. And yeah, if you have Soul Harvest, try to keep Soul Harvesters up as much as possible. So yeah, that's basically the trial setup. If you have any questions, suggestions, don't hesitate to ask in the comment section. Also, I will upload videos of runs later, but at the moment, like on the trial, there's not much, on the PTS there is not much going on. So you really have to wait for videos, how this build, to see the build in action, like when the Thieves Guild DLC goes live. But then I will upload things, so yeah. So thanks for watching, make sure to subscribe, and again, if you have questions, don't hesitate to ask. I also have a Tamriel Foundry forum thread open where you can see all my builds. And if you have questions, you also can ask there. Okay, see you guys, cheers.